کنسولای ایرانی بودن که در آلمان و کشورهای دیگه در زمان نازی‌ها به یهودی‌ها کمک کردن و این برنامه خیلی جالب خواهد بود. امروز افتخار دارم که مهمون بسیار عزیزی دارم، خانم دکتر صبا سومخ که ایشون هم استاد دانشگاه هستن، هم عضو بورد امریکن جویش کمیتی هستن که حالا من وارد برنامه میشم و ازشون خواهش میکنم خودشون معرفی کنن. Dr. Sumekh, it's a pleasure to have you here. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, everyone. My name is Saba Sumekh. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. I grew up with Radio Iran, so it's such a pleasure to be here. And I apologize to your listeners for having me speak in English, and thank you for tolerating me not speaking in Farsi.
Actually, don't worry about it. My program has been always in English because most of my guests are American. I hope in the future we can have Iranian joining us. We had a few Iranian program too. Okay, would you tell us about your academic position and also tell us about your position in the American Jewish Committee?
Sure. Thank you so much for asking. So for the past 17 years, I have been a college professor. I have a PhD in religious studies. And my first book was on Iranian Jewish women. It's called From the Shahs to Los Angeles: 3 Generations of Iranian Jewish Women. And so through the process of writing that book, which was my PhD dissertation, I became very familiar with the history of Iran and the Middle East. And so I began to teach religious studies classes and also courses on modern Middle East, on Iran, and also on Israel and the Israel-Palestine conflict. I came to the American Jewish Committee, which I don't know if your listeners are familiar with AJC.
Oh, yeah, I really appreciate it if you tell us what is American Jewish Committee.
Sure, absolutely. AJC, we are one of the oldest Jewish human rights organizations. We've been around for 113 years. We started from the pogroms against Jews in Eastern Europe. And we have 22 offices in America, 10 offices overseas. Again, it's a Jewish human rights organization, but we fight for human rights on behalf of all people, different religious communities. And my official title is the Assistant Director of Interreligious and Intercommunity Affairs, meaning I'm lucky because I get to travel all over the world, all over America, all over Southern California, and I get to meet with different religious leaders.
I had problem bringing you here. Okay, so is it only human right, or is it a political, or?
We're nonpartisan, and we take our nonpartisanship very seriously. So we fight on behalf of it's human rights, global rights, religious rights. So we are again a Jewish human rights organization. So we fight on behalf of the Jewish community for Israel's place in the world. We are proud to support engagement between Israelis and Palestinians in order to facilitate a 2-state solution. We have different, part of our organization, we work with Africa, we work with Central and South America, the European community, Asia Pacific. So we've been around for a long time and we do really important work. John Kerry called us the State Department of the Jewish people.
State Department, that's very nice. Actually, talking this issue, our center, Iman Foundation, will be hosting 2 gentlemen, an Israeli and a Palestinian, that they work together for peace, and they will talk at Iman on July 7, I think at 2 p.m.
Wonderful.
I send the information to you, and
please do.
The audience would, if they need information, they can call Iman and ask Iman's office, because that's going to be a good. We had several problems like this before with the Palestinian Jewish group. And this time, the rabbi who contacted me is from Israel. And apparently he's working with some of the Palestinian, and they're working for the peace.
Wonderful.
And hopefully it happens.
Wonderful. I know you mentioned New Ground. We work with New Ground with Aziza Hassan and Rabbi Sarah Bassin. So it's an organization that it's very close to my heart, and I love the work that they do.
Actually, they are very close to my heart. My
good.
first program in this radio was with Aziza Hassan and Sarah Bassi.
They are amazing women. They're gems in our community. We're lucky to have them.
And we had the Interfaith Festival of Unity last Sunday, the Sunday before last Sunday, and both of them were there.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, they're great.
So what are the obstacles that you're facing when you are working in the American Jewish Committee? Because I have a history working with the American Jewish Committee, with our interfaith, with Rabbi Brown and the people before. But what are the obstacles is it all of the Jewish community are supporting the American Jewish Committee, or there are some people that we always have these kind of the things in the communities?
Well, the Jewish community is not homogenous. It's a very large community with a million different opinions. We're very lucky that we have lots of different Jewish organizations fighting anti-Semitism and working on behalf of the Jewish community. Some of the obstacles regarding interfaith work is really just reaching out and being able to meet the people that you want to work with. Unfortunately, in the current climate today, that's not really an obstacle anymore, because people recognize the need for unity and the need to be able to work together. Because chances are, if someone's going to come into a synagogue and gun Jews down, they're also going to go into a mosque, they're going to go into an African-American church, and they will also go into a Gurdwara. And so I haven't really dealt with any obstacles regarding that, because at this point, luckily, everyone really wants to work together. And we know that there's strength in numbers in fighting anti-Semitism, racism, Islamophobia, homophobia, etc.
So does American Jewish Committee work with any other religious organizations?
Yes, we have lots and lots of different organizations that we work with, community partners. My specific job is to reach out to different religious communities and build a partnership with them. So we work with a lot of different religious organizations. We also have what's called the Muslim Jewish Advisory Council, bringing Muslims and Jews together to work together in America. We advocate on the Hill on anti-hate legislation. We have an African-American Jewish caucus that we work with. So we are all over working with different religious communities. You name the religion, and I am with them, working with them.
You're a full-time faculty and you do this?
Well, so my full-time job is at the American Jewish Committee, and I left academia full-time 2 years ago to do this work. And I am still a lecturer at UCLA. And next year we'll see where I'll be teaching. But I've been teaching mostly Iranian studies classes at UCLA under the Levy Center for Jewish Studies. Yes, it's great.
So do you want to encourage the Iranian youth to go to these programs?
Yes. I mean, please, one of the things growing up was, as an Iranian Jew, I was never able to go to class, whether it was growing up at a Jewish day school, going as an undergrad at Berkeley, my work at Harvard, my PhD at Santa Barbara. There was never any courses really on Middle Eastern Jews. And luckily, UCLA saw that they have such a large Iranian community and such a large Iranian Jewish community. And so they have some amazing professors who teach courses specifically looking at Iran and specifically looking at the Iranian Jewish community. So two of the classes that I've been teaching is a course on Sephardi and Mizrahi feminist literature. Sephardi are Jews coming from Spain and Portugal. Mizrahi are Jews coming from the Middle East. And so I've been teaching literature of feminist Jewish women from Egypt, Israel, and Iran. And another course I just finished teaching was a course on Iranian Jewish history, looking at the modern time, mostly looking at the time of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi up until now with immigration to Los Angeles.
What do you think about the Iranian Jews in Iran before revolution and the Iranian Jews that they are in Iran right now?
What do I think in what regard?
What is their like a Jewish in Iran right now? Do you think that they have enough freedom, or they are practicing their religion?
Well, so I want to be very sensitive to that community there. So from what I understand, they do have the ability to practice their religion, and I know a lot of people who are there say that they do have that freedom. I know in Iran, it is legal to be Jewish. It's not legal to be a Zionist. So I think that they have a good life as long as they don't show any tendencies towards Zionism.
So do you think that the Iranian Jews right now are all of them are Zionists, or some of them are Zionists?
I don't know, and I can't say, so I don't want to talk on behalf of a community that I'm not in contact with. I know that they do love Iran, and I know that they have chosen to stay, and so it really does show their patriotism towards the Iranians and the country.
I have a lot of Jewish friends here too, and I found out that the majority of the Iranian Jews really loved Iran, and they have good memories, and they still
Absolutely
try to make their children to learn Farsi, to go with all the classes, and we can see that. Why you didn't learn Farsi?
I did learn Farsi. I do speak Farsi. And when I was in grad school at Harvard Divinity School, I took classes on learning how to read and write. First of all, I blame my parents, who I love dearly, but I think
they're listening. Yeah,
they are listening. I think it was hard because we came here. We went to Jewish day school, so we were learning. I was learning how to speak English, modern Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, and we were speaking Farsi, but we weren't learning how to read and write. So I speak Farsi, but not to this level of having an intellectual conversation in Farsi. Regarding Iranian Jews and their relationship with Iran, the Iranian Jewish community is the oldest community in the diaspora. They've been in Iran for 2,700 years, since 722 BCE, before the advent of Islam. And so, yes, of course, they feel a lot of love and affinity for the country that they have been in for over 2 millennia. So, yes, there's a lot of love for the country. And I know from my students, I know from growing up, that we were brought up with a lot of love towards Iran and the country and the culture. My name is Saba. My father named me after, he was a huge he loved poetry, and he loved Sufi poetry, Rumi and Hafez. And so he named me after a Hafez poem. And ironically, I lived in India, in Punjab region, in northern India. And what I was doing there was studying Hafez's poetry. So I was brought up with this love of Iranian poetry, cuisine, culture, history. And that's why I chose to focus my academic career on it.
It's perfect. And when you talk to your parents, what are their memories about Iran and the other Iranian people?
They only speak so highly of the community that they grew up with. My father's family is originally from Hamadan. They moved to Tehran, and my mom is from Tehran. And they talk about Iranian life as if they were living in a cloud. So I know that they truly miss the country and everything about it. And I also know that they're very grateful to be living in America, where they could be Iranian Americans and not deal with discrimination.
I remember that when I was in Iran and in the university and with my classmate in the community, even my dad was in the business that they are working with the Jewish and Zoroastrian and Armenian and Baha'is. But it was not like Los Angeles. People were more united than what we are right now in Los Angeles.
I think you're right. And again, I was 2 when I left. So everything I know about Iran is anecdotal. I can't speak on behalf of actually living there and having any conscious memory of Iran. But it is a very disparate Iranian community here. You're right. We don't really see people. There are a lot. So I don't want people calling in and saying, I have Muslim friends and I'm Jewish. But for the most part, the communities are very separated. But you do see them coming together. For example, when UCLA has their Nowruz festival, or when people are coming together to listen to music or a concert, or when everyone's tuning in to listen to you.
Okay, we're going to take a break because it's advertised time, and we come back.
Thank you.
همبستگی با ادیان.
با دکتر صادق نمازیخواه.
Okay, we are back now, and as usual, we are ready to answer any phone calls or question. You can call the Radio Iran number, and any question from Dr. Sumekh or from me will be at your service. Okay, the whole idea of this program and what is in my mind and the management of the radio station is to bring a good dialogue and understanding between the people from different beliefs. And we are not here to promote any religion or criticize any religion or any ideas. And it's not limited to the Abrahamic religion, because a lot of people think that when I have the Interfaith Festival Unity at Iman is only Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and they criticize me, why only these three people? But at the same time, we have Unity and Diversity World Council that their office is at Iman, and we have the other people from the different Buddhist, Baha'i, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and you name it. You know, one time I had the Bridge of Love at Iman. We had 25 different representatives from the Indian chief all the way to the Jewish, Muslim, and the Christian. So in this program is to bring the people together and create a understanding and, take away the ignorance, and which is, the ignorance is the most damageable things that causes all of these things that we are having in our society. As you said, the unity that we had in Iran, because of some special people or some, sometimes I see that, one time I remember that one of the newspapers, very Jewish magazine, they called me and they interviewed me on the phone, and they said that last night there were a group of the Iranian Jewish youth and the Muslim youth. They came out of the nightclub and they had a fight over a girl in the street. Do you think it's related to the Israeli-Palestinian situation? I said, listen, those who became out drunk, you're not Muslim or Jewish.
Right.
Those who fight on a girl is not a religious issue.
Right.
There are two stupid people had a fight, two groups of stupid people had a fight over a girl.
Right.
And this is not and people try to make stories. To make stories to cause division. We don't want division.
Right.
As you said, that we are all under attack with the condition that we have in this country right now. The mosques are being attacked. The synagogues are being attacked. The night before the Pittsburgh, I was in the Shabbat program in the Santa Monica Church. I had a wonderful time with my Jewish people, and there were dignitaries from all the religion from out of the country. And there are joy when we get together, not separation. That's why I asked the question that I made that statement that in Iran we didn't have this separation. And I enjoy the unity because I have a lot of friends from different religions. But I'm hoping that the people get together and they be closer and they educate each other about each other and learn from each other.
I absolutely agree. One of the main things I do with my World Religions course, and in that course I was teaching 13 different religious traditions, is it's one thing to teach about these religions. It's another to actually go attend on their sacred days. And so the students were coming to a synagogue with me. They were going to a Gurdwara. And for your listeners who don't know, a Gurdwara is where Sikhs go. It's their temple, and it's beautiful. They're gorgeous. And then after their services, they actually have something called langar, which they provide a free vegetarian meal for everyone in the community. So I make the students come to a Gurdwara. We get to sit with the Sikh community. We get to break bread, naan with them, have a vegetarian meal with them. They also go to a mosque. And the mosque that I always go to, because I have developed a close relationship with that community, is the Islamic Center of Southern California on Vermont. And so in that way, the students not only get to see the religions, but they get to live the religions. They get to sit there and be a part of it. And they really get to experience what it's like to be a part of a different religious community and see how similar and how much of a community it really is. Religion's not bad. The politicization of religion is what makes it bad. You could have the same Bible that is used to go against slavery and the same Bible that was used to promote slavery in the South. And so it's using religion for your own political means, and that's what makes it so negative. But at the end of the day, religion is a beautiful way to unify people together. I think one thing that we have to say about the LA Iranian community and why it is so separate and disparate is, I think, as silly as it sounds, I do think that geography plays a huge role. The way LA is set up is everyone's kind of in their own enclaves. And I think because it is such a large Iranian community that people have the luxury of just wanting to stay within their own community, because you do have the Baha'is. So you could just be with your family, your Baha'i friends, and you have that here. You have the Zoroastrian, the Christian, the Jewish, the Muslim. And so people don't, they're so comfortable here and their communities are present. So it almost makes them lazy. If you go to other places where you have Iranian expats living, they're all friends because there's not a lot of people to choose from. So they don't have the luxury of saying, I'm just going to stay in my community. Plus, they don't have an hour commute to get to someone else's synagogue, mosque, house, etc.
I was in Korea about a month ago, and I went to a Buddhist temple. Sometimes when you think as if you want to look at it, the negative look, you can see a lot of things are being done wrong. But I saw a lot of similarity.
Of course, yes.
It's not exactly the same thing. The way they prayed, it was like a Muslim people.
Right.
And I go to the YouTube, I go throughout a lot of, I study a lot of to know the culture of the religion, YouTube. And I see some of the Jewish prayers, the Jews prayed like a Muslims. And they bowed and they put their front head on the ground. And this is very common. And we can learn about each other. And I see that in the month of Ramadan, we serve iftar for the 30 days in the community. We don't ask anybody, what's your religion? We don't have any membership to accept anybody. And I see a lot of people from different religions come and enjoy the environment. I've worked in the Interfaith with a representative from the Mormon church. And there are Brother Gillan and Judy, his wife, and they fast all of the month of Ramadan. And I have a friend who is Jewish and his wife is Muslim, and they fast in the Ramadan, they fast in Yom Kippur.
Right.
And they have the double pleasure, right?
Right.
It's not, but that's a problem. But you have, what kind of student you have in your classes?
So I have a lot of students because my classes get cross-listed with different other majors. And so I'm very lucky I get lots of different students that come in. But for the most part, they're mostly Iranian students. And you're right, because you do see the different communities, because the Iranian Jewish students, tend to only hang out with Iranian Jewish students. And the Iranian secular Muslim students tend to only be friends with secular Iranian students. And every now and then you'll get a couple of secular Iranian Muslims who are friends with the Iranian Jews. But I remember one class where one of the girls, Iranian secular Muslim, she grew up in Plano, Texas, came to UCLA, and she was so new to how different all the communities are and didn't understand, if we're all Iranian, why aren't we all becoming friends? And she turned to them and said, she specifically turned to the guys and said, so you date us, meaning secular Iranian Muslim girls, but you want to marry them, meaning religious girls. You don't think that we're Najib, you think only Iranian. I mean, she really called out the communities for being so separate. But I have to say, even within Iranian Jews, you get Iranian Jews from Beverly Hills and Iranian Jews from the Valley, and they're not even hanging out. So It's a huge problem. I don't understand it. I had one of my students say to me a couple of years ago, Professor Sumekh, what do you think about when people say, oh, someone's Tehrani, someone's Hameduni, et cetera? Like, what do you think about that? And of course, I don't want to throw my opinions on them. So I do this thing where I say, I don't know. What do you think? Because I want to hear what they're saying. I don't want to tell them what my opinion is to make them feel like their opinion is right or wrong. And she said, well, my family's from so-and-so, and I think sometimes, I don't want to marry a guy who's from this certain city in Iran because his family's going to be like this and like that. And I said, all of you guys, and I said, how many of you would not marry someone? By the way, it is only my Iranian kids, my students who care about marriage in college. I've taught at Loyola Marymount University for 13 years. Not a single student has ever talked to me about marriage or thought about marriage. They're thinking about career. They're not thinking about who they're marrying. I've taught at Cal State Northridge, never a conversation about marriage. My Iranian students are always thinking about marriage. And she said to me, well, I don't want to marry a guy whose family is from, and she said, some city in Iran because his family's like this and like that. And I said, okay, how many of you will not marry someone when you get older because they come from a city in Iran that your family has a negative view of or has a certain reputation? And something like 90% of my students raised their hands. And I was shocked because I said, you guys, you were all born and raised in LA. Who cares if someone's family is Shirazi, Hameduni, Esfahani, who at this point, you're all American Iranians. Who cares? But it just shows you how much, on one regard, they're not holding on to the history of Iran. For the most part, they're learning it for the first time at UCLA. But some of the cultural aspects of it, well, he's Hameduni, he's Shirazi, he's Esfahani, they're holding on to the point where all of them are being raised in the same schools, going to the same colleges, but yet they might not marry someone because his family comes from a city that their parents might disapprove of.
This is the influence of the parents.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, so the parents are influencing on some levels regarding cultural aspects, but when it really comes down to history, these students don't know anything, at least Iranian Jewish history. It's the first time they're learning about Najas and Iranian Jews being considered to be impure, and this idea of najasat and purity, impurity, and why does my mother light esfand or my grandmother light esfand? What does this even come from? And the Zoroastrian rituals and what Nowruz actually is, and the evil eye and Cheshm and all these things. And so it's really the first time they're really getting a historical understanding of it, let alone even understanding why the Islamic Revolution happened. Who is Reza Pahlavi? Who is Mohammad Reza Pahlavi? Who's Khomeini? Who are all these key players that caused the revolution to happen? What happened with Operation Ajax and the CIA and MI6 getting involved with Iran and Mossadegh and everything like that?
Oh, so these are not all like Orthodox Jews.
Oh, no. We have no. They are Iranian Jewish students from Reform, Conservative, Modern Orthodox, Orthodox.
Reform.
Yes. So the most liberal to the, I should say, to the most Reform, to the most religious, to secular Iranian
They
students.
all have the same opinion about this marriage.
Not all of them, but a lot of them shared very similar opinions. And
Did you ask the same thing from your Muslim student?
Yes, my Muslim students couldn't even understand. I once had someone come to me and say, we want to get the Iranian Muslim and the Iranian Jewish community to come together and do interfaith work. And my joke was, honestly, at this point, interfaith work with the Iranian Jewish community is getting Ashkenazis, American Jews, and Iranian Jews together, because that's even in itself a disparate community that, for the most part, for a very long time, we're not mixing in the Jewish day schools. And so it's a problem. It definitely is a problem. The insularity is what has kept Iranian Jewish tradition and community alive, but it also has caused a lot of issues regarding the way Iranians are just viewed as being very insular, very family-oriented, and not really wanting to go out of their own social community.
Yeah, actually, that's the same problem I have in my interfaith programs. Even in interfaith radio, it's easier to get along with the American and get their cooperation than the Iranians.
Right. Well, and I ask you, how much was interfaith work done in Iran? From what I understand, there wasn't any. Religion was more, at least under the Pahlavi regime, a private thing. No one really was publicly religious, at least.
I don't remember any popular interfaith dialogue, but now I can see that you have intrafaith
Yes,
problem
we have
too.
interfaith. There's a long way to go. We have a long way to go, but that's why the work that I'm doing, and I have to commend you for the work that you're doing.
Colleagues, and the discussion came that about the religion, and he said that you're exposing people to your religion, and I found out the total ignorance in that question. I said, I didn't want to even answer to that. But that was exactly the motivation that I have to create the Interfaith Festival of Unity. And we have a very successful group, and we have rabbis that they worked with me for 18 years. And, Catholic priests and Protestant priests, Mormons and Muslims. And they became friends. It's interesting. They see each other. Now they communicate with each other. And if we can, even I brought 3 rabbis together in the same manner.
Right, no, yes, right.
Yeah, I brought the Sarah Bassin and with the Orthodox rabbi at the same panel.
Right.
But that,
and sometimes
the
it's easier,
Shia and Sunni
right?
together.
And sometimes it's easier to do from someone outside of the faith, because for our Muslim Jewish Advisory Council, we have Muslims from all over the Muslim world come to AJC for dialogue meetings. And I remember one of our members said, the irony that we all have to come to a Jewish organization to meet each other, because we had Muslims from Turkey, from Egypt, Sunni, Shia, from Central Asia, the Middle East, from the Gulf states, from South Asia. And, they came to a Jewish organization to meet because they weren't doing it in their mosques. And
there was a Rabbi Julius Stein in the Wilshire Temple on Normandy and Wilshire. And we had a very close cooperation with the Wilshire Temple. And the best time that we had was the Muslim from different organizations, like Iman and the Wilshire Temple, they joined together and we have Passover dinner.
Yes.
And in that Passover dinner, we recited Quran and Torah at the same time about the time of the time that the Jewish were released and they were left at Egypt. And I think that there are a lot of ways for us to get together. There are a lot of ways. And there was a marriage between the Muslim and a Jewish guy and the Muslim girl. And I was conducting the Muslim part.
Oh, you were officiating.
And
yes.
And the rabbi officiating the Jewish part. And it was so fun for me. We were standing together, me and the rabbi, and doing the same thing, that it could be a no-no in both religions.
Right.
And that's one of the Jewish organizations that I tried to work with them and bring the youth together. And they were the only concern they have is the interfaith marriage. What do you think about interfaith marriage?
Well, I have a lot of family members that converted into Judaism, into our family, into the religious tradition. And, I have to say, I have a lot of friends who have interfaith marriages, and I know that the Jewish response to that is not favorable. I think the problem with interfaith marriage is that a lot of times the children are not brought up with any faith, and a lot of times parents will say, well, I'll let them choose when they want. Most of the time, kids don't choose. So they want that ritual. They want to learn all of these things. I personally don't have a problem with interfaith marriages. I think that when you don't conduct interfaith marriages from a Jewish perspective, if you're telling that person you can't be a part of the Jewish community if you're going to marry someone Muslim, Christian, Baha'i, whatever it is, what you're going to do is basically kick them out of the community. And so thus the Reform movement, which officiates interfaith marriages, I believe in their approach to that, because what they're saying is we want to still let you know that you are part of this community, and we still want to have you a part of this community and welcome your spouse into this community and welcome your children into the community. So I could see the problem with interfaith marriages regarding losing, quote unquote, losing someone from your community. But at the same time, I also see it as an aspect of introducing your tradition, your culture, and your religion to someone.
Okay, I really appreciate the busy time that you have that you spend some time in my program.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I hope that we can have you in the future with the other people.
Whenever you like.
Sit
I'd
here
love
to
be
talk
here.
to you. I really enjoyed that. Do you have any message for the audience? Do you want to say anything?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And, I really, I'm so grateful that you are doing the work that you're doing. And I always encourage people, please reach out, especially when something's happening in the world and you know that there's been some violence towards a community. Please reach out to that community. Show them solidarity. A lot of times you think, well, what can I do? You know what you could do? You could show up at the synagogue the next week, even if you're not from that faith. You could show up at the mosque, at the Gurdwara, at the church, and just say, I'm here to show my support. And it is amazing how people really just need that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to thank my audience and hope to be with you guys on the first Monday of the month of June. And in that program, this time we have the young people from Jewish and Muslim religion, and they tell us how they feel about the work that they do together. Have a wonderful time. عصر شما بخیر. روزها و شب‌های خوشی داشته باشید.